If you really want to get into web security, you have to see what's happening behind the scenes. And that's exactly what we're going to cover, diving into the single most important tool for doing just that, the web proxy. So here's what's on the agenda. We'll kick things off with what web proxies are and why they are so essential. Then we'll look at the go-to tools of the trade. After that, we're going to get our hands dirty with the core technique of intercepting traffic, before we move on to automating requests and unleashing some really powerful advanced testing.
Okay, so let's start with the big why. Why do security professionals rely so heavily on these tools? I mean, what problem are we actually trying to solve here?
It really all boils down to this one question. How in the world do you test what you can't see? Every modern application is having this constant, hidden conversation with its back-end servers. And if you want to find vulnerabilities, you absolutely have to be able to listen in.
And that's where the web proxy comes in. It's our solution. It's a tool that sits right in the middle between your application and the server. And this unique position, it's a complete game changer. It lets you intercept, inspect, and even modify any traffic passing through. You essentially become a man in the middle for your testing, giving you total control over that conversation.
All right, so we know what a proxy is. Now let's meet the two heavyweights in this space, Burp Suite and OWASP ZAP.
First up, you've got Burp Suite. This is the big commercial player, the one you'll see everywhere. Its free community version is surprisingly powerful, but the paid pro version is where you unlock its full potential. Then you have OWASP ZAP, which has become this amazing open source alternative. It's completely free, with no features stuck behind a paywall and no throttled scanners, making it an incredibly capable tool for literally everyone. And listen, these tools are not one-trick ponies. They are unbelievably versatile. You can use them for everything from running automated scans and crawling an entire application, all the way down to manually replaying individual requests to poke at very specific weaknesses. You can even use them to just blow right past security controls that only exist on the front end.
So with all that power, how does it actually work? Well, it all comes down to intercepting and manipulating traffic. This is the bread and butter of what a proxy does, so let's break down exactly how you do it.
The basic workflow is a pretty simple 5-step process. First, you tell your browser to send all its traffic right through the proxy. Second, you flip on the intercept switch in your tool. Third, you do something in the web app to send a request. Fourth, you pause and modify that request right inside the proxy. And finally, you forward your new crafted request onto the server to see what happens. Let's make this real with an example. So imagine a simple web app sending a perfectly normal, valid request to the server. Right now, everything looks fine. It's a standard piece of traffic that would usually just fly by completely unnoticed. But here's the magic. Because we've paused that request in our proxy, we can completely sidestep any validation that was happening on the web page itself. We can change that valid input into a malicious payload, which is really just a piece of data designed to trigger a bug. In this case, we're injecting ;ls, a simple command to list files on a Linux system. So we send our modified request on its way, and then we check the server's response. And boom, there it is. The response contains the output of our ls command, revealing the contents of the server's directory. That confirms a critical command injection vulnerability. This whole thing perfectly illustrates a super important security principle. Front-end validation is for user experience. Back-end validation is for security. A web proxy is the tool that lets you get past all those front-end checks and really test if the back-end is actually doing its job. Okay, so intercepting every single request is powerful, for sure. But it can get pretty tedious. To work fast and efficiently, you've got to master repetition and automation. Let's see how that's done. This is where features like Burp's Repeater or Zap's Request Editor become your best friends. They let you take one single request and send it over and over again, making tiny changes to your payload each time. It is perfect for quickly hammering a single endpoint to test for flaws without having to do that whole interception workflow every single time. But we can take automation even further with match and replace rules. You can, for instance, set a rule that automatically changes your browser's user agent on every single request. Or, and this is really cool, you can create a rule to modify the server's response, like changing an input field from type equals number to type equals text before it even gets to your browser. And why would you want to do that? Well, because automating these response modifications can basically disable those annoying client-side controls for your whole session. That rule we just talked about, changing an HTML input from number to text,
It removes the browser's front-end restrictions completely, saving you a ton of time and hassle.
Okay, we've gone beyond manual tweaks and simple repeats. Now let's talk about the big guns, the powerful engines these proxies have for finding vulnerabilities at scale. We're talking about fuzzing and scanning. Think of a fuzzer, like Burp Intruder, as a machine that just throws everything at the wall to see what sticks. You give it a massive list of potential inputs, we call that a word list, and you tell it where to inject them, which is marked here with that little section symbol. The fuzzer then sends thousands of requests automatically, trying every single entry from your list to see if any of them can break the application and reveal a hidden flaw. And Zap's built-in fuzzer? It's a fantastic alternative. It provides similar, powerful fuzzing capabilities, but here's the kicker. It does it without the speed throttling that you find in Burp's free community version. This makes it a high-speed, unthrottled attack tool that's completely free. And finally, both of these tools have comprehensive automated scanners. This is where the tool will just crawl an entire application and then start actively poking and prodding it, looking for a huge range of common vulnerabilities. Everything from cross-site scripting and SQL injection to insecure server settings and old software versions. So, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Mastering a web proxy isn't just another skill. It is the absolute foundation of professional web security testing. Everything else you learn is built right on top of it. Ultimately, this is what it's all about. A web proxy gives you the ability to see the unseen and control the hidden conversation happening between the client and the server, which really just leaves us with one final question for you. Now that you can see and control the traffic, what vulnerabilities will you find?